Welcome to Wichita Liberty TV with Bob Weeks.
Hello, I'm Bob Weeks for Wichita Liberty TV, your weekly source for news, analysis, and commentary about Wichita and Kansas government and public policy. We're broadcast on KGPT channel 26.1, also its companion website, kgpt26.com. Some of you may know me for my blog, The Voice for Liberty, at wichitaliberty.org. The motto there is individual liberty, limited government, and free markets in Wichita and Kansas. So I cover things that may not be covered by other news media in Wichita and Kansas. Or, if we do cover the same news, I'll do it from the perspective of economic freedom, limited government, and individual liberty, because these are the things that are important. And these are the things that we find so often under attack by our governments, be it at the federal, state, or local level. So, please visit wichitaliberty.org. You can subscribe to the email newsletter I send 2 or 3 times a week. You can like The Voice for Liberty on Facebook and follow me, Bob Weeks, on Twitter. And if you'd like to contact me, you can find my email address there at wichitaliberty.org, or just remember bob.weeks@gmail.com. You've probably heard that Wichita voters will be asked in November to vote on a proposed sales tax. The proposal is for 1 cent per dollar to be used for a new water supply, improving the bus transit system, for street repair, and also for jobs and economic development. And one of the criticisms of any sales tax is that it is regressive. That is, it affects low-income families in the greatest proportion. And this is an important consideration to explore as Wichita voters decide whether to create a new city sales tax of 1 cent per dollar. If enacted, the sales tax in Wichita would rise from 7.15% to 8.15%. Now, this is an important issue because to hear some people talk, it seems as though they are saying the proposed tax is 1 penny. Anyone can afford that, they say. But it's important to remember the tax is an extra penny on each dollar spent, meaning that the cost of, say, $50 of food at the grocery store increases by 50 cents, not by just 1 penny. And we also hear the sales tax spoken as being a 1% increase. And that's true if we mean a 1% increase in the cost of most things we buy. And 1%, after all, is just 1%. Not a big deal, people say. But considering the sales tax we pay, here is a relevant calculation. If we're currently paying 7.15 cents tax per dollar as we do, and we add 1 cent per dollar to that, the amount of sales tax we pay rises by 14%. So maybe we should be asking this question of Wichita voters in November. Do you want to increase the sales tax you pay by 14%? Well, to explore the effect of the proposed sales tax on families of different incomes, I gathered data from the United States Census Bureau, specifically Table 1101, which holds data from the Consumer Expenditure Survey for 2012. Now, I realize there's a lot of data in this table that you may be seeing right now, so remember, it's available to view and download at wichitaliberty.org. But this table divides families into 5 quintiles of income. It gives annual expenditures for each quintile in categories like food, housing, and transportation, and others. And for each category, I judged whether it is subject to sales tax. For example, for housing, I judged it is not subject to sales tax. And that's not entirely accurate, as some of the spending in that category, it might be for taxable items like maintenance and repair supplies. Another approximation is that food is subject to sales tax in Kansas, although low-income families may apply for a rebate of the tax. But despite these shortcomings, I feel this data gives us an approximation of the effect of the sales tax. And as you might imagine, as income rises, so does total taxable expenditures. What I found interesting is that the percent of expenditures that are taxable is relatively constant across income levels. But an important finding is the very bottom line of the table, which shows the increase in costs due to the proposed sales tax as a percent of income after taxes. This calculates the relative impact of the proposed sales increase. And it is here that we expect to see the regressive nature of a sales tax appear. Now, for all consumers, the increase in cost is 0.35% of income. But for the lowest class of income families, the increase in cost is 0.97% of income. That falls steadily to 0.26% for the highest income class families. Now, this means that the lowest income class of families experience an increase nearly 4 times the magnitude as do the highest income families as a percentage of after-tax income. This is the regressive nature of sales taxes illustrated in numbers, and it is something that Wichita policymakers and voters should consider. Well, I think Wichita policymakers have already considered this, if they were aware of it to begin with, and they believe that the sales tax is the best way to go. So, it's up to you voters to become informed on issues like this. Welcome back to Wichita Liberty TV. I'm Bob Weeks. Well, around this year each time, the City Council prepares to authorize funding for the subsidy paid to a discount airline to operate in Wichita. That had been AirTran Airways, but since last June it has been Southwest Airlines. And I'd like to show you some updated statistics regarding the airport. Now, all of these charts are available on the internet at Voice for Liberty at wichitaliberty.org. Remember, the purpose of the subsidy is to keep a low-cost or discount airline in Wichita. The low fares will provide competition that induces lower fares from other airlines. And in general, this works, although there is dispute over how much is actually saved in the cost of airfares. And also, there are likely unintended consequences of the subsidy. Now, the city has pointed to the arrival of Southwest Airlines last June as a game changer for the Wichita airport. And it's true that passenger counts have increased. And in this chart, I present monthly passenger counts, in planements only, at the Wichita airport for all carriers and for Southwest Airlines separately, Southwest being the red line. Now, I've treated Southwest as a continuation of AirTran, as Southwest started service at the same time AirTran stopped, and Southwest is receiving a similar subsidy like AirTran did. I show monthly traffic and also a 12-month moving average to smooth out the extreme monthly variations you see in passenger traffic. And of note is that while the Southwest Airlines passenger count is increasing, it started from a very low position. Also note the passenger count of Southwest has not risen yet to the level that AirTran experienced in the middle of the last decade and also as recently as 2011. Now, looking at the number of flights, that is the number of airplanes leaving the Wichita airport, the recent trend is up, and that's a departure from recent trends. And although the number of available flights nationally has been slowing, it was falling faster for Wichita. That trend for now is reversed, although the number of flights in Wichita is far below the level of a decade ago. Now, the number of flights available at the Wichita airport is a very important statistic. Greater attention is usually given to airfares, but for many travelers, especially business travelers, an available flight at any price is of paramount importance. Last year at this time I wrote, a program designed to bring low airfares to Wichita appears to meet that goal, but the unintended and inevitable consequences of the program are not being recognized. In particular, the number of flights available at the Wichita airport continues to decline. So this year, it's good news that the number of flights has risen instead of continuing a downward trend. Now, if we look at the trend in passengers in Wichita compared to the nation, we see that in 2013, Wichita has now experienced an uptick. Wichita is the gold line in these charts. Passenger traffic in Wichita had been relatively level at the time that national traffic was rising. The number of available flights in Wichita has started to rise in Wichita, while nationally that trend has been level for the past several years. Load factor, that is, the percent of available seats that were sold, is rising in Wichita, as it also is nationally. Now, the last set of 4 charts you've seen is from an interactive visualization I prepared using data from the Bureau of Transportation Statistics. This visualization is available to use at wichitaliberty.org. In it, you may select any number of airports for display on the charts. This allows you to make any type of comparisons that you like. So there is some good news from the Wichita Airport in terms of the number of passengers and flights. But here's a public policy question to consider. Recently, Southwest Airlines reported record high profits for the quarter, that is, the 3 months ending in June. The company said that net income was $485 million, which it said represented the 5th consecutive quarter of record profits. So we might ask this question: why do Kansans across the state pay taxes, including sales tax on food, to fund millions in subsidy to a company that is experiencing such a sustained streak of record profits? Welcome back to Wichita Liberty TV. I'm Bob Weeks. Last week, the Wichita City Council passed an ordinance that starts the process of placing a sales tax measure on the November ballot. This 1 cent per dollar tax would be used for several initiatives, including an economic development jobs fund. Now, I think the city will need to gain the trust of citizens if the measure is to have any chance of passage. And while I am personally opposed to the sales tax for some very good reasons, I'll offer this advice to the city on what it could do to help pass the sales tax. And that's because some of the measures here would improve the operation of government in general, and that is an important and worthy goal. Now, one thing the city could do concerns the oversight commissions. Presentations made recently by City Hall have told us that the City Council will appoint a private sector-led jobs commission. This commission would examine potential projects and make recommendations to the entire City Council. There will also be a citizen oversight committee and a jobs commission audit committee. And that's a lot of committees. But the problem is that committees like these are usually stacked with City Hall insiders, also with people who want to personally gain or profit from cronyism, and also with people the city believes will be quietly compliant with what the city has already decided it wants to do. Now, as an example of the city's attitude towards commissions and boards, consider my nomination to the Wichita Airport Advisory Board last year. That nomination had to be confirmed by the City Council. Now, I've been critical of the subsidy paid to airlines at the Wichita Airport. I've researched airfares, air traffic, and the like, and I've showed you some of this to you in the last segment of Wichita Liberty TV. And I presented findings to the City Council that were contrary to the city's official position and that illustrated a possible negative effect of the subsidy effort. And because of that, the Council would not confirm my appointment. The city was not willing to have even one person on the airport board who might say, wait a minute, let's take a look at this in a different way, and that being someone who would have data, facts, and evidence to support an alternative. So, at last week's meeting, the City Council assured citizens that it would not be the same group of City Hall insiders serving on these boards and commissions. According to meeting minutes, Councilmember James Clendenin, he represents District 3, Southeast and South Wichita, Clendenin said, over the next few months, there is going to be a lot more detail given to the public so that they may make an informed decision at the time this comes up to a vote in November. Okay? If the council is really serious about this, it could take one simple step. Appoint the members of these boards well in advance of the November election. Also, define the structure of the boards, such as the number of members, how they are appointed, the terms of appointment, and other details. Now, another thing the council could do is improve transparency. Now, the city says that the operations of the committees and the Jobs Fund will be transparent, but the city's record in transparency is poor. For years, the city's quasi-independent agencies have refused to release spending records. Many, such as I, believe this is contrary to not only the spirit but the actual language of the Kansas Open Records Act. And there is nothing the city has said that would lead us to believe that the city plans to change its attitude toward the citizens' right to know how taxpayer funds are spent. So, if the city wants to convince citizens that it has changed its attitude towards government transparency and the citizens' right to know how tax money is spent, it could positively respond to the records requests made by myself and the Kansas Policy Institute. Now, the city is also likely to engage in an educational and informational campaign on its cable television channel. If it does, a welcome gesture would be to offer time on the channel for citizen groups to present their side of the issues. The city's cable channel, after all, is supposed to be a public access channel. But as of now, citizens have no ability to produce content for that channel. And regarding information provided to citizens, in presentations to the Council, reports released by the Texas Enterprise Fund have been used as an example of what Wichita might do to inform citizens on the economic development activities funded by the sales tax. But I found that many in Texas are widely critical of the information provided about that fund's operation. And even when information is provided, it is subject to different interpretations by self-interested parties. On the Texas Emerging Technology Fund, the Houston Chronicle recently reported, whether or not the fund has lost taxpayer money depends on which accounting method is applied. The Associated Press says a method common to government entities placed the fund values of $175 million with a loss of $30 million. The Texas Governor's Office uses a private accounting standard that places the fund's value at $230 million, meaning a $25 million profit. And in 2011, the Wall Street Journal reported on how job creation numbers can be stretched far beyond any sense of reason. It said in Texas, Mr. Perry, the governor, in 2011, reported to the legislature credited that the Texas A&M Institute for Genomic Medicine with already producing more than 12,000 additional jobs. That's ahead of the 5,000 jobs promised by 2015. According to that institute's director, however, 10 people currently work in the new building. A Houston area biotech firm that agreed to produce about 1,600 of the project's jobs has instead cut its Texas staff by almost 400 people and currently employs 220 people in the state. So what accounts for this discrepancy? Well, to reach their estimate of 12,000 jobs created by the projects, officials included every position added in Texas since 2005 in fields sometimes only tangentially related to biotechnology. They include jobs in things like dental equipment, fertilizer manufacturing, and medical imaging. The Wall Street Journal asked an economics professor who studies these things, and he said, "It's hard to see jobs in dental supplies in El Paso being related to a genomic clinic in College Station." Now, locally, the city of Wichita has had difficulty making information available. Last year, the Wichita Eagle reported on some of the problems. The Eagle asked the city for an accounting of the jobs created over the past decade by tax abatements. And here's what City Urban Development Director Alan Bell told the Eagle. He said, "It will take us some time to pull together all the agenda reports on the 5-year reviews going back to 2003. That same research," he said, "will also reveal any abatements that were retooled as a result of the 5-year reviews." Well, We might have thought that the city was keeping records on the number of jobs created on at least an annual basis for management purposes, and that they would have these figures ready for immediate review. But apparently, that is not the case, even for something as important as jobs. Well, I think we need to recognize that because the city does not have at its immediate disposal the statistics about job creation, it is evident that the city is not managing this effort. Or maybe it just doesn't care. Either way, it's a management problem at the highest level. In fact, the city and its economic development agencies don't even keep their promotional websites current and up to date. GWEDC, that's the Greater Wichita Economic Development Coalition, the agency credited with recruiting a company named Infonix to Wichita, well, GWEDC doesn't update its website to reflect current conditions. That Infonix company closed its facility in Wichita in 2012. When I looked at GWEDC's website in October 2013, I found it promoted Infonix as having 950 employees in Wichita. So observe, the official Wichita Area Economic Development Agency touted the existence of a company that no longer exists in Wichita. And furthermore, it claimed a higher level of jobs that the company never achieved when it was operating in Wichita. So, I ask you, do you have much confidence in the city of Wichita, both its elected officials and bureaucrats? And then, what is Wichita doing to demonstrate to citizens that it is working on improving in the areas of citizen engagement and providing reliable and accurate information to citizens? Well, thank you for watching Wichita Liberty TV this week. I'm Bob Weeks.